Hump Day. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. And we got a lot to get to on the American campaign in the Middle East, including War Secretary Pete Hegseth's comments about the decimation of the Iranian Navy. Trump's also pleased with how everything's going.
We're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15. And we're going to continue to do well. We have the greatest military in the world by far.
By far. Now, the American-friendly Kurds are launching a ground offensive in Iran. We're going to have much more on this in just a minute. Also, the House Ethics Committee has announced an investigation into Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez over allegations he engaged in sexual misconduct with a staffer who later died after setting herself on fire. And the Justice Department today saying it's unable to build a criminal case against Joe Biden or any of his aides in his administration for the use of the Autopen. Really? Okay. But first, the first submarine torpedo used since World War II. 20 Iranian Navy vessels sunk, B-52s inbound, while the Senate dinks around with what they think is best. How about you guys just let us win this fight in the next few days, and then we can powwow all you want. Let's do this. So we got more than 20 Iranian Navy ships sunk, double the bombs of shock and awe, which was the initial strike on the Iraq back in 2003. First long-range precision strike missiles successfully ever used in combat, and what is about the coolest video on the internet right there on your screen. Boom! Boom! For the first time since World War II, American forces sunk an enemy ship with a torpedo. Yes, I am fine with my tax dollars paying for this. Now, the combat testing alone in this conflict and the immediate battlefield feedback we're getting from this campaign, it's worth the entire budget of the Pentagon. The aerial experience from this operation sets us like light years ahead of any other country's military. An experience saves lives in the future. And this experience is financially cheaper than most training scenarios, by the way. Key experience that afforded us in the best case scenario.
Iran's senior leaders are dead. The so-called governing council that might have selected a successor, dead. The Iranian Air Force is no more, built for 1996, destroyed in 2026. The Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf.
Yeah. And yet, you get like sourpuss from the peanut gallery. I don't even know why the world is listening to a bunch of people that would disagree with Trump no matter what he did.
Guys like Schumer would say, well, you should have done this. In other words, if I did it, it's no good. If I didn't do it, they would have said the opposite.
Pretty much. Like, I've watched guest after guest on all these other networks, 99% of which have never been in combat, and they would piss their pants if they ever found themselves in a gunfight. They're the ones telling Trump and Hegseth what they need to do.
With this president, sadly, we keep learning over and over and over again that the easiest answer is almost always the truest one. He does not play four-dimensional chess.
Pound sand, little boy. You are not in the arena. And no matter how many broadcasts you do or tweets about public policy, I don't give a flying you-know-what about your opinion. Now, Megyn Kelly actually read a poll the other day on her show that the American people aren't clear on this. Take a listen.
The American people do not know why we're doing this. I mean, when you're getting no more than 14% for each possibility, the American people is confused.
Okay, look, I deeply respect Megyn, and let me tell you why it's a good thing that nobody knows what we're doing, at least for the immediate future, okay? If this goes longer than another week or two, Megyn, I may be jumping on the same boat as you, but this, not an Iranian boat, because those are all sunk, but this also means that our enemies are not clear on what we're doing, which is the goal in combat. Now, let me remind America that we voted for Trump mostly because we trusted his judgment over Kamala. I mean, everybody should do that. But some people are going to say that, look, some people aren't going to like this, but I'll say it anyway. Sometimes we don't have the right to know everything as a populace. That's just the facts of the matter. But whether you agree with this or not, we're in it. And the best thing now, having been in combat myself, is to shut up and let us win this fight. That's all. The last thing soldiers want to hear is some armchair quarterbacking from talking heads and politicians like 5,000 miles away when we're trying to dodge missiles at 32,000 feet at 750 miles an hour, which is what the Senate did today, is absolutely ridiculous. They tried to stop Trump. They voted on a war powers resolution. Thankfully, it didn't pass 53 to 47. But the 47, they didn't vote in favor of hamstringing Trump because they disagree with this campaign, because most of them have said, you know, we need to do something about Iran anyway. They voted against Trump because they have to deprive him from mission success. Like, look, the fastest way to make Iran fall back into the chaos in the hands of bad guys is to stop Trump's ability to finish the mission. And then all these same people can turn around and say, see, look, Trump messed up Iran. That's what this is about. They're trying to deny him a victory because he's probably going to win this war in like the next week, which is just bizarre to me that Congress is taking such an interest in this, because when Bush launched the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know how many times in 20 years Congress voted to stop that war? That was also, by the way, never declared by Congress, that spent trillions of dollars and killed thousands of Americans. They voted to stop that approximately, give or take, we're just estimating here, 0. They did waste everyone's time by voting to restrict it after we already left. So, like, guys, spare me your urgency on this one. And the same elected reps worried about this Iran campaign becoming a forever war. Where the heck have they been on Ukraine? Like, we're into the 5th year there. Hundreds of billions of dollars of weapons and money poured into that country. You know, this is going to drive you nuts. For 3 years, our billions of dollars going over there, we're funding their municipal pension system. Where was this immediate congressional concern then in that conflict? Nope, just write blank checks, send it over there. We don't care where it goes. But now that Trump has dusted an entire upper echelon of the government in Iran, putting, like, the W is in sight in 100 hours, they want to rein that in? Out there trying to tell us that they're worried this is going to be a forever war. It's not. And you want to know how I know that? Because it's being run by people who fought in the forever war, and we don't want that again. People who were in the rank and file, like Raising Cane, they were in the rank and file during the Iraq and Afghanistan war, where we had stupid rules of engagement, nation building, arming the enemy, ever-evolving mission creep. Anyone who fought in the GWOT will never, ever consent to that kind of political garbage ever again. Trump knows that. Trump knows exactly what he's doing on this. And members of Congress know this too. And they got called out by Pete Hegseth today.
Well, I've been through that movie before, with the Democrats rooting against the country. Our generation saw that in our battlefields. I think it's pretty unprecedented and unfortunate that it would occur 4 days in.
Yeah. And some, like Elizabeth Warren, going even further, saying, let's be clear, the U.S. had a deal that could have prevented Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, and Trump ripped up that deal. Oh, really? You mean the JCPOA that gave Iran money and then didn't stop them from building a nuke? The deal that gave, I'm thinking, $1.6 billion in pallets of cash that were flown into the middle of the night, and then another $16 billion to self-inspect and report back on their own nuclear program that they said they weren't building, which they were. Oh, by the way, that same JCPOA, the deal that Trump ripped up and threw out, half of it expired in 2023. The other half expired in 2025. So, Pocahontas, what deal did we have in place? Seriously, what are the specifics of that? Oh, you don't have any. That's right. Go talk to a manager. There's no deal on the table in which Iran would have given up their nuclear ambition. She's just lying, just like she did with her Indian heritage. But let me present something to the haters. We're out there handing out dirt naps to the #1 state sponsor of terror. People should be cheering. And people are upset about it. But if you reduce this to just pure numbers, this is why this whole campaign is a good idea. The #1 justification to all of our foreign aid in the Middle East is to combat Iran and their proxies. That's what the justification has been since 1979. 30% of all of our foreign aid goes to the Middle East. Last year, we gave about 15 to 20 billion of our tax dollars to that region. For reference, folks at home, That's 100% of the tax revenue from 1.4 million households in America went to Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Somalia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and a bunch of others. To date, as of about an hour ago, this attack has cost the United States of America about $5 billion. And if we finish it, and I'm talking to you, Congress, get out of the way, we don't have to give a dime to any more countries in the Middle East while we pick up access to $30 trillion of Iran's natural resources. So again, I say it again, let the guy cook. I'm trusting him until he gives me a reason not to. Montana Senator Tim Sheehy. Sir, you know, as a SEAL yourself, this has got to be music to your ears that we've taken the handcuffs off our troops.
Well, as you know, Carl, the whole time we were in the Middle East fighting those forever wars, who we were really fighting that entire time was Iran. Iran started this war with us in 1979, and in the decades since, they've been capturing, torturing, maiming, and murdering American citizens and innocent Westerners all across the world. And they've been doing so without consequence until Donald Trump came into office. And as you said earlier, the Democrats are rooting against America. The policy of Obama and Biden and Susan Rice and Jake Sullivan and Ben Rhodes and all those jackasses was to send billions of dollars to Iran, pay them to stop being mean to us, make deals they knew they were never going to follow, give them pallets of cash they were going to buy rockets and missiles and nukes with, and hope that they wouldn't do bad things again. And guess what? That policy didn't work. And all the instability in the region came from one place, and that was Iran and its proxy groups, from Hezbollah to Hamas to the Houthi rebels. And of course, they even had a presence in Americas. And part of this calculus that you understand, but many folks are just starting to get their hands around, is that Iran's status and Venezuela's status as a global money launderer and energy launderer for Russia and China was a tremendous empowering move for both those regimes. And China likes having sanctions from America on Iran because it gives them a captive oil market to buy cheap oil to power their economy. So by taking out the regime, we're not just taking out the prime sponsor of Islamic terror for the whole world, we're also taking out a cheap energy source for China and Russia.
Yeah, I explained that in depth yesterday, as well as the fact that, you know, LNG tankers from Russia are also getting mysteriously blown up in the Mediterranean. Wonder how that happened. Another thing is, you actually had firsthand dealings with a protester today who was at that Senate hearing screaming and yelling. There you are, you jump in there, help get him out of there. I mean, this guy, he's standing on that uniform that he's wearing there, exuding zero of the principles of that uniform.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, you know, that we have this crazy lefty protest culture going on where none of these people ever protested for dead Americans when they were being killed by terrorists. They never protested when Americans are getting murdered by migrants coming across the border. But of course, as soon as we lose 6 service members, which of course is a tragedy in this conflict, they come out of the woodwork and blame the administration for killing Americans. They never blamed Obama and Biden for empowering this evil terrorist regime, and they never blamed the terrorists for actually being the ones to kill people. Let's not forget 43 American citizens died on October 7th at the hands of Iran. So it's about time we bring some common sense. This is America first all the way, because the Iranian regime's been killing Americans for half century, and all these unhinged lunatic protesters, most of which are getting paid by far lefty groups, they're anti-American, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, and he broke his arm because he refused to let go of the door frame, which is like the most ridiculous thing, and he was trying to blame you guys for it. The other thing that people are saying is, well, how does this help me afford my mortgage? And I'm like, really? They were silent for the last 4 years while Joe Biden and the Fed, which I think we should end, printed $9 trillion, and it made your dollar worth 30 cents less. Where were they on that?
That's exactly right. I mean, these moves make so much sense, not just foreign policy wise, but economically. And when we have the Straits of Hormuz, when we have the Red Sea, we have the Suez Canal, we have critical energy pathways being shut down by this terrorist regime. The impacts of that on the economy are major, and the impacts of that stability on the energy economy are huge. So this move makes sense in a lot of ways. And of course, thanks for communicating that to your viewers.
Of course. Well, Senator Tim Sheehy, we appreciate it very much, sir.
Great to see you, Carl. Thank you.
All right, coming up, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his AG Keith Ellison in the hot seat today as Republican lawmakers demand answers of where the hell our $9 billion went in their state. Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry, who was in that hearing, joins me next.
Donald Trump's second presidency is changing America. Now you need to watch Rob Schmitt tonight on President Trump's next big move. Then tune into Rob Finnerty taking on Trump's critics. President Trump says he watches Newsmax. You should too. Download our Newsmax app to watch us anytime, anywhere. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax. Be one.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. These people are crazy.
It's filet mignon.
Oh, if only they knew. Just between us, these are actually Omaha Steaks' new top sirloin fillets. They're so tender, you'd swear they're filet mignon. Aged 35 days, they're the only top sirloin certified tender by the USDA. Everyone's gonna be so happy, especially our wallet. She's thrilled.
And you'll be too, with 4 free Butcher's Cut top sirloin fillets with your order at omahasteaks.com/topthis.
Times may be tough, but these tender beauties aren't. You're welcome.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
When fraud concerns were raised early in your tenure in the Child Care Assistance Program, did your administration stop payments at that time?
The Child Care Assistance Program and
the answer is no. You have been defrauded. You have not been good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And the Democrat position is, well, keep the money flowing. The American taxpayers have had enough.
I don't think that guy even prepared for that. If there was ever a question if he's ignorant or stupid, well, you decide. Minnesota Democrat Governor Tim Walz and his Attorney General Keith Ellison, in between putting tampons in the boys' bathroom, facing heated questions as House Republicans accuse them of brushing aside concerns about billions in fraud over many years, actually. So the question is, what did they know and when did they know it? Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry, who was in that hearing today. Sir, quite a show.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be with you, Carl. Look, they knew all along. Quite honestly, I'm just very frustrated because it seems to me that there ought to be at least a pretty robust investigation leading to indictments of both the governor and the attorney general, because not only did they know, they either committed crimes of commission, which means they aided and abetted the fraud, or they committed crimes of omission, which they didn't bother to do anything about it while the American taxpayer were being ripped off. And by the way, people were being made to be unsafe because of their policies and their administration. That's dereliction of duty. And to me, if you know those things are going on and don't do anything about them or are assisting in them, that is unlawful activity. And I wonder why they're not sitting in front of a jury instead of the oversight committee.
Yeah, well, and sir, we've had a ton of these hearings on a number of subjects. Do you see enough today to provide a criminal referral to the DOJ for this, or do you need to see more?
Well, I think it's probably there. I only had a certain amount of time to dig through it, but I think based on especially what if you watched Representative Jordan, I mean, certainly perjured himself. The governor did regarding what the court's action was, and you know, of course, he wouldn't say who was lying, but I don't think the court's lying. I think there is actionable information there to refer charges, and I hope that we're doing it, but we shouldn't have to do that. We have an attorney general, we've got the FBI, we've got a fraud division now. People expect accountability. If you did this, Carl, or if I did this somehow, I guarantee you we'd be on trial, if not already rotting in jail right now.
Oh, 100%. But, you know, the thing is he played dumb. I don't know if he was playing, but one of your colleagues, Pat Fallon, I will say, I love Pat Fallon. This guy came out with an absolute banger today. Roll this real quick.
It's been widely reported that in 2008, when Barack Obama was choosing his vice presidential candidate, He had 3 criteria. He wanted to make sure he picked somebody that wasn't as smart as him and had less talent and charisma and couldn't possibly outshine him, so he picked Joe Biden. And then Joe Biden in 2020 used the exact same criteria. He wanted to make sure he picked somebody who wasn't as smart as him, had less talent and charisma, and wouldn't outshine him, and he picked Kamala Harris. And then in 2024, Governor, I think it's very evident why Kamala Harris picked you.
How do you keep a straight face during that?
Look, he delivered it well. And listen, if you talk to Governor Walton, of course, I served with him in Congress, you're going to get the same perception. And of course, my only misgiving among others is that he served in uniform, and it's such a disgrace, right? I mean, the guy claimed he was a sergeant major. We literally called him that until he ran for vice president, and then we realized he had lied about the whole thing. And of course, you know this, Carl, if you're willing to lie about your service, quite honestly, the sky's the limit then, right?
Yeah. Well, why not lie about $9 billion in fraud to the Somali community? It really is unbelievable. Congressman Scott Perry, we appreciate you getting to the bottom of this, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Oversight Committee also voted 24-19 to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Epstein. Well, the first primaries of the 2026 midterm campaign are in the books, and all eyes were on Texas. Dan Crenshaw lost on his congressional seat. But on the Senate side, John Cornyn and State Attorney General Ken Paxton will head to a Republican runoff in May, since neither received more than 50%. 42-41. The winner of that runoff will then face off James Tallarico, who ended Jasmine Crockett's political career since her seat was eliminated in the redistricting, thankfully. But President Trump doesn't look like he's in the mood for a runoff, posting on Truth Social a little while ago, quote, "I will be making my endorsement soon and will be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of the race." Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton himself, sir, there are a lot of people saying that if Wesley Hunt hadn't been in the race, you would have breached the 50% mark.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that would have happened. Even with $100 million, close to $100 million being spent against me, we spent $5 million. We still went head to head, even with that Wesley in the race. So in a runoff, the chances are looking pretty good for me, especially in a runoff in Texas, because less people vote. They're more conservative. I've always done really well in runoffs. As a matter of fact, my closest runoff, I won by 30 points.
Yeah. Well, sir, the question I guess everybody's asking is, we don't know. Actually, we have no idea where President Trump's going to land on this. But look, John Cornyn's not a favored. You are a favored among Trump. Do you think you're going to get this endorsement? And if you don't, are you going to drop out?
Look, I owe it to the people of Texas to stay in this race. John Cornyn has not delivered for the people of Texas. He's actually not been a Donald Trump fan. He opposed him in 2016 for president and said in 2024 that his day has passed. On the other hand, I supported Donald Trump both times. I was actually one of the first 2 people, along with Congressman Nels, to endorse Donald Trump. And so I want people of Texas, I want the people of Texas to have a choice. And there's a significant difference between me and our current Senator John Cornyn. And I want the people of Texas to have somebody that will go fight for them, not somebody that plays the game in the Washington swamp and doesn't actually accomplish any good things for us.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you are a, take it to the max delivery guy. I mean, you've spent your entire time delivering for Texas. Even under Biden, you were out there fronting, on the front lines of fighting for the border security and things like that in courts when they were trying to open that. Cornyn was nowhere to be found.
Not just nowhere to be found. He actually fought the border wall. If you go and look at clips from him, there are at least 15 clips of him saying he didn't believe the border wall is good. His whole career has been about amnesty. My position couldn't be more different. I am for the border wall. I sued the Biden administration over our border wall in Texas. I sued them over building the border wall for the United States. I've sued them over illegal immigration. I am not for amnesty. So again, the choice here is very different. And the people of Texas do not want John Cornyn to represent them.
Yeah, well, let's see where this endorsement lands. Mr. Attorney General Ken Paxton, best of luck, sir, if there is a runoff, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Coming up, President Trump making another big announcement to help American taxpayers and big tech companies. They're going to pick up the bill for their own power. That's next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Iran has hit cities across Israel with a massive attack. There are rockets and drones that are hitting our schools, our homes, our synagogues. I'm Yael Epstein of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, and we urgently need your response now to help bring emergency food, shelter, and life-saving supplies.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has emergency teams across the front lines of Israel's war for survival. Call now to give your gift of $45 and help provide food, shelter, and life-saving supplies. It's your prayers and gifts that give hope and comfort to Israel and the Jewish people.
The Fellowship is a Bible-believing ministry, and we desperately need tens of thousands of faithful believers to answer this call for help now.
Call, scan, or go online now to stand with Israel.
One of my most frequently asked questions is, how do you get your teeth so white? And no, it's not the reflection off my white hair. It's Smile Actives. Boom, right there.
Do you have a yo-yo smile? Sometimes yellow, sometimes white. It's a constant battle between everyday stains and whitening treatments. Until now, get Smile Actives, the daily teeth whitening breakthrough that gives you a more youthful smile and helps you keep it.
Smile Actives is easy, and it works. No gloopy trays, no messy strips.
Just add Smile Actives to your favorite toothpaste and watch the magic happen. Our patented Polyclean microfoam lifts away deep stains for a dramatically younger and whiter smile.
You have a choice. You can have those yellow teeth, or you can be full of confidence. I love my white teeth.
Scan, click, or call for your whitest smile yet. And if you order right now, we'll double your whitening free. Get an extra Smile Actives as our free gift to you, but only while supplies last.
And right now, the best part, buy one, get one free.
100% of users saw whiter teeth. Smile Actives lifts away even the toughest stains from coffee, wine, and food, gently restoring your bright, youthful smile. Plus, it's safe for veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I drink coffee every day. Smile Active, it works. Got your boy gleaming.
Clinically shown to brighten your teeth 5 shades whiter in just 7 days.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Act now. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll double your order free. But hurry, this deal won't last. Smile Actives is guaranteed to work. Whiten your teeth or get your money back. No questions asked. Don't wait. Get Smile Actives for just $24.95 and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. That's free shipping, a free extra bottle. That's an incredible 58% savings.
I think we can all agree, no matter what the occasion, when you leave the house, everyone notices your bright white smile.
Scan the code, go to smileactives.com or call to get your beautiful whiter smile now.
Under this new agreement, big tech companies are committing to fully cover the cost of increased electricity production required for AI data centers, and that would be prices for American communities will not go up, but in many cases will actually come down and very substantially.
Thank God. President Trump today joining a roundtable with a number of tech giants discussing the ratepayer protection pledge, in which Americans in areas where data centers are being installed will be protected from the rising energy costs, which is great. They're going to make big tech companies pay for their own energy for all these servers they're building. Former Trump is senior economic advisor Stephen Moore. All right. Huge news, because I live in the Socialist Republic of Connecticut, where my delivery fee is $210 a month because of these things.
Wow. So this is user pays, and it's a good economic principle, and congratulations to Donald Trump for getting this agreement. It's smart, by the way, that the technology companies have agreed to do this. Of course, they should pay for the energy that they use, and so this is good for ratepayers. It's and you know, we're going to triple the number of data centers we're going to need over the next 15 years. Sure. So this is going to put enormous pressure on. We need to build more data centers. We need to protect the grid system. If you were to ask me what is our greatest vulnerability economically, I would say, do we have the electric power to generate the power in the future that we're going to need? And so this is a big deal.
Well, all the greenie beanies, they wanted to axe all the coal and things like that, but they're actually going to let these tech companies build their own nuclear power plants, like privatize them?
Yeah, well, you know, Bill Gates you know,
Not a
loves
fan.
Microsoft said we're gonna open 3 Mile Island. Look, the future in energy is not, you know, windmills and sawgrass and all these idiot things. The future is the two ends: natural gas and nuclear power, and I'd say the third is clean coal.
Right.
And there is clean coal. We have more coal than any other country. So thank God, by the way, as we look at what's happening in Iran now, thank God we have a president who's doing drill, baby, drill. Because can you imagine how high the price of oil would be today if we weren't energy secure and energy independent, as Trump has made us?
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, and we're taking the oil from Venezuela now. We're likely going to get a bunch from Iran. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying that today he expects these 15% tariffs to begin shortly. This is after the Supreme Court struck down, obviously, the last set of tariffs that he did under a certain very niche thing. So Trump said, no, I have 15 other ways to do it. Yeah. And Scott Bessent and him were like, okay, let's do it, and let's bump it 5%.
Yeah, so I'm not, by the way, I'm not an expert on all these different laws dealing with all the trade laws. I'm a lawyer.
Not even the people who wrote them are experts.
But I will say this, that the 15% rate that he wants to charge across the board, I believe he only has a certain time. I was like 3 months or 6 months or something like that, and then he's going to have to go back to Congress. Look, I do think that no president should have unilateral authority to raise taxes, in my humble opinion. So Trump at some point is going to have to go to Congress to get authority to do this, but he's got, I think it's 150 days that he can impose this tariff.
Yeah. You know, the other thing is I talked to my last guest about this, about people affording homes. A lot of people are concerned that, hey, you know, this war's going on in Iran, or we snatched Maduro and things like that, and they're like, I can't afford a home. But what a lot of people I don't think are seeing that this is going to add massive wealth to the American economy with both of these countries' natural resources.
Well, that's right. And by the way, no country has more natural resources than we do. This is one of my pet peeves. Is, you know, why do we have to be dependent on China and Russia for minerals, critical minerals, when we have them in Utah, we have them in Colorado, we have them in Montana, we have them in the Dakotas. We put out a report at Unleashed Prosperity showing the value of our critical minerals resources in this country, $20 trillion. So here's the thing that, Carl, that everyone should be angry about. We haven't been doing mining in this country for almost 25 years.
Because of environmental groups.
Yeah, and Clinton.
Yeah.
You know, they shut it down. And here we are now having to beg China and Russia and these other countries to get the critical minerals we need for the future. So I want your viewers to understand this. It's not just drill, baby, drill. Trump wants mine, baby, mine.
There you go.
We should be doing that.
Yeah, well, we got to get the crunchies out of the way for their protection of the sage grouse and the blue-spotted frog or whatever. Stephen Moore, pleasure as always.
Good to see you, Carl.
All right, coming up, Letitia James is now demanding hospitals perform child mutilation surgeries, yet libs still want to call Trump a dictator. Make it make sense. All that in our Culture Clash next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
My husband is Michael J. Cardus. In March, he got a phone call that said, "You have lymphoma, it's treatable." He died the next morning. My biggest fears were, how do I financially support the kids? How do I emotionally support the kids? And then Tunnel to Towers paid off my mortgage. I felt like I was seen, that my service mattered to somebody.
48% of Americans aren't getting enough magnesium, which is essential for nerve, bone, and muscle health. I recommend Cunol High Absorption Magnesium Glycinate. It's gentle on the stomach and helps you get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Kibble. It's been the standard for decades, and it's failing our dogs. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It's gently air-dried, locking in the nutrients and the flavor dogs go wild for. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
I wish I could just watch live sports at home.
Oh, Sling let you do that.
I wish I could watch live sports at home at a low price.
Sling let you do that. Sling let you do that. Sling let you do that.
Yeah, well, I wish I could watch live sports and pause my subscription when my team sucks and still get hundreds of channels for free.
Sling lets you do that.
Choose and customize your channel lineup or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
To a hacker, your tax return isn't just paperwork, it's a gold mine. Your social security number and bank data are their biggest payday of the year. Old antivirus software can't keep up. You need PCmatic. Our default deny technology blocks every single threat that hasn't been pre-approved. If we don't know it, we block it. Secure your return right now. Buy PCmatic antivirus and we will give you PCmatic VPN for free. American-made security for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Visit PCmatic.com.
Another win for parents in America and a loss for libs trying to chop things off of our children. This week, the Supreme Court said the teachers in California got to tell parents if their kids want to do trans things. And in New York, NYU Langone Hospital closed its transgender youth health program after the federal government threatened to pull all their federal funding. But New York Attorney General Letitia James said, you know what, hold my beer. She's now ordered the hospital to resume providing puberty-blocking medication and hormone treatments to children. I don't think you can force a hospital to do procedures. Host of the podcast Scrolling with Hayley Caronia, and independent journalist Evita Duffy-Alfonso. Hayley, you can't order people to do weird things.
No, I don't think this is part of her purview, but isn't it funny? I feel like everything that the Letitia James does is to defy Trump. Even if they're going to make kids castrate kids and mutilate them and cut their body parts off. I mean, she'll do that if it means she can defy President Trump. If President Trump and the federal government want to pull funding, Letitia James will say, "Oh no, we're gonna go against whatever the Trump administration wants to do." It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, from people who protested for no kings, right? Okay. This, Evita, is crazy to me. Disasters in New York, along with allowing police officers to, be hit by chunks of ice, and obviously also firing 5,000 of them in the pipeline for, budget reasons. Zoran Mamdani just announced free child care for all. Watch this.
All that is required is that parents live within that school district, no matter the amount of money they make, the occupation they have, their immigration status. So long as they live there, they can apply.
Does it require an ID, or is that just to shovel snow?
Carl, Gulag Archipelago, written by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, laid out how the radical left, communism, and it's relevant to Zoran Mamdani, who is a communist, always victimizes law-abiding citizens. They always do that. That's what they do. So, of course, Zoran Mamdani would force law-abiding taxpayers to pay for daycare for illegal migrants. Of course, he would try to demoralize the NYPD to make criminals emboldened in the city of New York. This is what they do. And the victims are always law-abiding, innocent Americans, innocent people, and they do that to demoralize them, and they do that to make sure that they are more reliant on the federal government. This is the playbook. It's been happening for forever.
Yeah, big promises, and now he's raising property taxes. Great job, New York. We got a follow-up, though, Hayley, about the registered sex offender that's also running for a Fresno City Council seat. Well, he thought it was a great idea to have a press conference next to an elementary school. This is hilarious. Watch.
There's an elementary school right there. Would that be against the rules?
I would say during operational hours, absolutely. I believe they are closed right now. I don't see anyone, and I understand the issue. However, I called it here because I felt this place was important.
that school was fully operational that day.
Yeah, that's why he called it there. Probably has ulterior motives, unfortunately. But this guy's a total sicko. The only place that pedophiles belong is a wood chipper or jail.
Yup.
And they deserve to rot in jail and then rot in hell, not serve on city council. But I wouldn't put it past people in California to vote this sicko into office.
Yeah, probably not. Well, in a video obtained by Lake and McHenry County Scanner, a Black Lives Matter one, this is crazy, Evita. He's like, so basically this woman says, hey, there's some fraud here maybe, and you're misusing funds. He attacks her and she whoops him.
Well, it's amazing to see the Black Lives Matter sign right up at the top as well. Like, that's where he's from. It's like, it's absolutely perfect. Listen, these guys are thugs. They're fraudsters. They have completely stolen from the American people, from corporate America, who's given BLM tons and tons of cash to allegedly fight racism. They've also destroyed our cities, looted them, burned them to the ground. So am I surprised that a leader of BLM would be behaving in this way? No, of course not. And they're not accountable to anything either. And this is all they've contributed to our country, right? Destruction, chaos, fiery, but mostly peaceful. No, actually, it's just all fire. And I hope that they are, just completely disintegrated from the future, because they have proven to be a completely fraudulent and disgusting organization.
Yeah, not to mention that the dude tried to pick a fight with a woman and then lost. So that's actually quite funny to me. All right, Hayley, Evita, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the left's climate change grift is crumbling. One former activist is speaking out against radical ideology of the climate, focusing on our climate reality or whatever it is. We got that next.
A dedicated mentor, an empowered parent, an effective after-school program, digital literacy tools that protect kids online. These are just some of the solutions to the Youth Mental Health Challenge. At the Coalition to Empower Our Future, we're bringing together experts in youth well-being to solve this complex challenge. Our mission? Keep kids happy and healthy. Learn more at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Power of disease. Ticks and fleas. Intestinal worms.
15 million dogs and counting know Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with one monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that, no needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Greg trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
Hi, I'm Greg. I live in Bloomington, Illinois. I'm not an actor. I'm just a regular person. 8 years ago, I just didn't feel like I was on my game. I started taking Prevagen, and I want people to know that Prevagen has worked for me. Give it a try. I want it to help you just like it has helped me. I've been taking Prevagen for 8 years now, and it's still helping me tremendously.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
Need blood pressure support? Total Beets contain a patented key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. That's why Total Beets is the #1 best-selling beets brand in America. Take control of your health with Total Beets. Search Amazon now for Total Beets.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slomag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slomag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slomag.
Look, climate change has always been a scam. Donald Trump just was the first president to actually recognize it and do something about it, doing things like removing us from the UN Climate Convention in February of 2027, because that was worthless. Yes, because people are starting to wake up, much like Lucy Biggers, a former climate activist who recently realized that despite the world on fire narrative that the left has been pushing for so long, we're actually safer with lower carbon emissions now than pretty much ever before. She wrote, quote, "For years, I walked around convinced the world would be unlivable within a decade. What I didn't realize is that the science never actually said that. In fact, thanks to technology advances from modern society, we're safer from climate risks than ever before."
When I was in the climate movement, I got my identity from being a good person and from being on the right side of history. And so I identified with that. And so good people don't question the climate movement. You know, good people don't listen to fossil fuel shills or defend fossil fuels. Good people don't question the climate narrative.
Lucy Biggers, former climate activist and head of social media at the Free Press. All right, Lucy, great that you've come to this realization. I welcome you wholeheartedly to this. It's crazy though how you openly talk about how they convinced you to believe these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I fell for it just by watching a few very biased documentaries, which I realized later were not fully accurate. And it was sold to me as an existential threat that we had 10 years left. And in my 20-something brain, it fell perfectly into an easy thing for me to fall for, I guess. And so immediately after watching a few documentaries, I joined the climate movement by advocating for, keeping fossil fuels in the ground, protesting pipelines. I was able to interview AOC and Greta. And honestly, I did that for years without really having a basic understanding of what climate change really was, which is very embarrassing.
Do you think that people like AOC actually believe the things that they're telling people like you, or are they just in the movement for money or fame or whatever?
I think going back to 2018 when AOC was pushing the climate stuff, I think she was like me. She's an ideologue who maybe didn't quite know as much as she thought she knew. At this point, I can't get inside her mind because obviously she's been a politician now for many years. So to change her mind publicly would be a huge social cost and risk. But I think there's a mix of probably useful idiots like me who are uninformed and fall for very black and white thinking. And then there's other people who have interests in this. I think that it's obvious you can connect the dot that it's in the interest of China to have us to be less energy secure and to have, our supply chains dependent on them for solar and wind and batteries and all these things. So there's smarter people probably maybe getting these things out there. And then there's the useful people like me who just fall for it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, and Lucy, I want to play something for our viewers. This is the moment that I actually realized who you were and saw this on social media. I want to roll this for our viewers because it was the moment, the aha moment that you had, and it was during COVID. Roll this real quick.
So the whole world shut down. At the peak of COVID, it was something like 17%. We saw a 17% reduction in our carbon emissions, the peak of COVID. So that's just those 2 weeks. Over the year, it ends up being something like 5% reduction. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, the climate movement wants 100% reduction in our carbon emissions. What is it going to expect of our society?
Yeah, we're literally locked in our homes, not doing anything.
And we still have carbon emissions. And so that was the first moment where I go, hold on.
I got 20 seconds for you, but remarkable moment.
Yeah, I think it makes you realize, what does net zero really mean? And I don't think it would be good for humanity at all.
Yeah, well, Lucy Biggers, love to hear from you. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And while we welcome people like Lucy to the sane side, the climate grift will never not be insane to me. And the people who push it, just like they shun anyone who goes against climate denier people or whatever. Same people who invented things like direct air capture machine designed to suck air and strip it out with its carbon and with using chemicals, and then they jam it back into the earth. And I was trying to think that there was something else it's a tree. A tree. We spent over like $27 billion building these stupid machines, and you can go on Amazon and buy 8 mangrove trees for $33, and you could offset the exact same amount of carbon from these stupid machines. Maybe just nature got it right. I don't know. Someone who loves the climate hoax, comedian Arynne Wexle. Look, I could make fun of this for days. They are awful.
Yeah, I actually forgot about the whole climate hoax situation because now we have bigger issues like trans people Yeah.
Like people who think they could actually change their gender. So it was refreshing to see just like an old-fashioned conspiracy from the left.
An old-fashioned lib.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you don't see that anymore. It's
No.
like an analog liberal.
Well, we also had, I don't know, 11 feet of snow in New York, so we all forgot about global warming.
Right. Well, now it's climate change because when things weren't melting and we had all this snow, all these like record low temperatures, they couldn't actually say global warming anymore. Remember Al Gore, the man who invented the internet?
Who
You'd
bought
remember
a
him?
oceanfront property when the seas were going to rise?
Yeah. Who else did that? Barack Hussein Obama, our first gay president, as well as Nancy Pelosi. So many people, right, who love to tell us how we should live our lives while they fly on their private jets to go get dinner for the night.
But they're more important than us. Come on, Eric. We know that. But this is the other thing, too. We have people like her coming over to this side and saying, like, well, guys, there's not data to back this up. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yes, there's never has been.
Well, what's really scary about this is how they weaponize all the data when it comes to climate. And we know they're also doing this when it comes to medicine. And so that's what honestly comes to mind when I see this, like creating new inventions when we have a tree. What else is happening? The incentives right now where money is going on the left and in all these massive institutions is to fund all these ideas. And so I have friends, for example, in scientific research, in medicine, in surgery, and they're telling me that things like this climate hoax, the same thing is happening in all these other fields as well. So I think we need to just blow the lid off of all of it.
That's how we ended up with the vaccine mandates. Here's something. I was watching one of your comedy skits, by the way, which I absolutely love your stand-up, talking about how Candace Owens has now accused you of being the mastermind behind this, like, massive international conspiracy in the Hamptons and meetups with Charlie Kirk and billionaires. What the heck? Where did she get? Are you even the right person?
I just want to say that I love Newsmax and the people of Newsmax, that I took time out of my very busy schedule controlling the world to be here with you all right now. But no, this was actually her first theory. So right now, obviously, she claims that Erica Kirk, the widow who lost her husband, that she is actually behind that one, that she's actually behind Charlie's death, which is like, I have to laugh because I love laughing at everything. And so I am a comedian, so I laugh at like the most inappropriate moments. I'd probably be laughing in Auschwitz if I had been there, but I'm here with you, thank God, instead, much to Candace Owens' chagrin. But yes, her very first theory was that the Jews, obviously, killed Charlie and were behind that, and that I organized the meeting in the Hamptons between Bill Ackman and Charlie Kirk.
Because you're Jewish.
And I think she loved using a photo of me, and I looked so good in this photo.
Wait, do we have that photo?
Phenomenal. If you guys have it,
not that
that's
one.
not
No,
me.
That's not you.
But
we can tell by the skin tone.
Thank you so much. Yes. But no, she just loved throwing the Jews out there because the meetup was actually mostly non-Jews, not even pro-Israel Christians. It was a meeting Turning Point, called by Charlie, and the facts don't matter. And she decided to call out the Jews who were part of that meeting.
Right, but she did say that they were indisputable facts. You got any bits coming up? Any shows coming to New York?
I do, but the show sold out in a day, so unfortunately people cannot get tickets in New York. It's going to be the Underground Republican Railroad on Saturday at my show, but I will have upcoming tours across the country, so if people want to go to ArynneWexler.com, they could find them there.
ArynneWexler.com. Your Instagram's actually quite funny, too, so I would encourage people to go follow that. All right. Thank you very much. Before we go, Fat Tuesday was a couple weeks ago, so what are you celebrating today? Well, it's in the same vein. Next.
Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
In 2024, the IRS flagged nearly 2 million tax returns for possible identity fraud.
Someone stole my Social Security number and filed a tax return in my name, and I'm a CPA.
Your tax forms have all the personal information needed to commit identity theft, and you're not the only one with a copy, which makes you vulnerable. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats others could miss. And if your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it, guaranteed. Enroll now.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I wanted the results of a tummy tuck, but not the downtime.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call or go to sonobello.com right now.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Iran has hit cities across Israel with a massive attack. There are rockets and drones that are hitting our schools, our homes, our synagogues. I'm Yael Epstein of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, and we urgently need your response now to help bring emergency food, shelter, and life-saving supplies.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has emergency teams across the front lines of Israel's war for survival. Call now to give your gift of $45 and help provide food, shelter, and life-saving supplies. It's your prayers and gifts that give hope and comfort to Israel and the Jewish people.
The Fellowship is a Bible-believing ministry, and we desperately need tens of thousands of faithful believers to answer this call for help now.
Call, scan, or go online now to stand with Israel.
If you've been watching this show, you probably heard of Fat Tuesday, but what about Fat Wednesday? Because that would be today, because today is World Obesity Day. It used to be celebrated on October 11th, but apparently it got so bloated that they needed to move it 5 months later. But look, I'm not one of them, but there are over 100 million people that fall into the obese category in the United States of America, which is a terrible thing. We wonder why we have some of the highest health insurance. Well, because the companies are crooks, but also because we have a lot of people that require a lot of medical care due to their weight. And then Ozempic came on and the body positivity movement kind of went down the drain. But this is something we have been trying to fix as a nation. RFK has been calling attention to it for too long, and people are still somehow fighting getting in the gym, Rob.
Yeah, the gym and the diet. I mean, I had somebody tell me that the gym is like 20% of it, the diet is the other 80. You know, you gotta get healthy. That's part of the big thing with the food. You got to get the food clean. Yep. You got to get people thinking right, and you got to get them off of the addiction to all this really, really addictive food.
Eat steak, don't be short for your weight.
Don't be short for your weight. That's a good one, Carl. All right, Carl, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
America.